You want to learn from people. I'm on a ton of newsletters, and I also get introduced to really good books. Also, there's this one. I have a very expensive story and writing course, and for LTUE every year, I discount it 90%. That's through Sunday only. So go to bit.ly/learnwithmbc and enter the coupon code LTUE 2021, 90% off through Sunday. All right, let's get to the good stuff. I always have to do the marketing. That's part of your self-publishing business, is you're going to make money at it. All right, so since this is advanced, and I'm actually going to treat it kind of as intermediate to advanced. The fact is there's not a ton of really advanced self-publishers, and they're the ones that you're going to see at the tops of the main bestseller lists, so I'm not talking about horror about detectives with club feet who have a dog named Lefty and the top 100 in that category. You see all these books behind me, so I've been a bestseller in young adult, middle grade, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, thriller. I've been top 10 in almost all of those on the Amazon charts and Kobo and all that good stuff. So you have to have this product that you can sell. We're going to assume that your product is good. That is the words. We're going to talk about stuff that isn't the words, because honestly, if you're coming here and your book is terrible, I can probably help you sell a couple of units, but you're not going to have a career. The indie audience used to be less discriminating. I mean, it was sort of like the grindhouse audience. There's people that would go there and look at those things regardless of quality. But now you have to have that quality, because indie is no longer a niche market. It's the biggest market. Indies sell more than the traditional publishers. Now, the individual authors, if you want to make the most money, if you want to be James Patterson, probably traditionally published is going to be the way you have to go, but you have a lot less control over that. And indie is rapidly overtaking that. So I think in about 10 years, our number one worldwide author is going to be an indie. All right, we're going to talk mostly about Amazon, because it is the 9 million pound gorilla in the room. You have to have an Amazon presence. And we can talk about the benefits of going wide versus being exclusive to Amazon. But that comes down partly to a numbers game where you're going to do better, and only you can answer that. And it also comes down to a philosophy, because some people are very worried, reasonably so, about having Amazon be the only game in town. Companies, no matter how nice they pretend to be, tend to not value their customers or their creators once they become that only game in town. So if there's only Amazon, they can come to the authors and say, your royalty rate just went from 70% to 10%. And there's nothing we could do about it. So that is a real concern. It's a valid concern, but I can't address it for you. The best I can say, look at your metrics, look at the things that are important to you ethically, philosophically. There's a lot that goes into that. All right, I am going to shift over here to a new screen for you guys so that we can look at a couple of things. We're going to go ahead and talk first about Amazon Author Central. I'm not going to show you my Author Central dashboard, but I do want you to see what the result is on Amazon. Okay, so here's my Amazon author page. You need to have an Author Central account with Amazon. You have to. And I'm consistently sort of astounded at the number of people who don't. Okay? At the number of people who basically say, forget about it, or don't even know. You go to just Google Author Central Amazon, and it'll lead you through the sign up. But what you get is a page like this. Oh, that's interesting. I have a green screen, and this area here is green on the cover, so it's wiped out. Anyways, what you get is a much more personalized experience for you. It creates a brand for you. And so over here, we have about Michaelbrent Collings, and it's really cool because I wrote it. It gives you the social proof that you want to include if you're an award winner, if you're a bestseller. I would caution you about using the term bestseller. You do have a savvy audience, and if it does turn out you are a best-selling horror mystery clubfoot dog named Harry seller, your audience is going to find that out. And instead of helping you, they're immediately going to assume that you're trying to snooker them, pull the wool over their eyes. It's not going to help you. But bestseller status isn't something you have to have right at the beginning. Like everything else, you're going to build to that stuff. So don't stress it. But you do want a description. You want it to be interesting. Mine up here, I'm an international best-selling novelist, produced screenwriter. A lot of authors aren't produced screenwriters with movies, and that makes me a little distinctive. Best known for horror, so I'm telling people what they're probably going to get if they want it. One of the most successful indie horror authors in the United States, which I can back up with numbers and accolades. And then the other stuff they can get with me. And then here's more stuff as social proof. But you're really going to want to have your author central so that you can have this. And notice, keep the most important stuff above the fold, old newspaper term, right up front. Okay. And then once you've got an Amazon author central page, you get all of this listing in one spot. Here's another cool thing, and I do love this. Instead of this horrible Michaelbrent Collings /E, B00, all that stuff, you're not going to tell that to people. So I just tell people to go to amazon.com/author/Michaelbrent Collings, because part of Amazon Central is you get this reroute that is more specific to you and sounds less like this corporate number crap. Again, it's social proof. Hey, I've been doing this. I have my own web stuff, and it's going to help you that way. Okay. While we're here, we're going to go ahead and talk about covers and descriptions. People are, I don't know, sometimes surprised that I talk about this, because they're like, I'm here to learn the details of advanced indie publishing. This is it, man, or woman, or person, or dog named Harry. I don't know who's out there. The point is, the whole thing is your product. You are a one-stop shop. And so every aspect of this is critical to your business growth and to your business continuance. It does no help to have a great year with $1 million if after that you make nothing. Okay. You want to be in it for the long haul. Slow and steady growth is always better than this, because 99% of the time that's followed by a bottoming out, and most people can't recover from that. So let me click over a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the covers. Now, you want your covers to do a couple of things. First of all, you want them to grab people's attention. And there's tons of ways you can do that. There's tons of design tricks and things like that. I'm going to say I do my own covers. I'm a little unusual. I've also done really well with my covers. I've won some accolades and awards for that sort of thing. Most people can't. Now, it doesn't mean they can't forever, but it does mean if you're doing your own cover and you haven't trained extensively for it, your cover sucks. Just assume it sucks, okay? If you're getting 2 sales a month and you made your own cover, that cover is the first bar to your success. No one's going to read your book. We do judge a book by its cover. And you want to get a cover designer, or you want to be able to do it competently yourself. I love doing covers. It's a lot of work. And if you don't have that time, subcontract it out. That's part of being a business too. You don't do everything yourself necessarily. It's nice to have the control, but you have to be not just okay, but the best. You have to be an expert. So here's some elements, though, of a good cover. You'll notice that each of these is, sorry about this dumb floating thing, each of these covers has typically a single element. So here we've got the guy whispering. We do have background things, the blood spatter, a couple of words in the background being built off the word strangers. We have a tagline. But when we shrink it down, let's go up here and shrink a little bit, if we will be able to. So you shrink it down, and you notice there's this single element, happy face, creepy eyes, tree, some kind of knife there. Even small, you can see some detail. Let me return back to where we were. 88, 90, 100. All right, so these are simple. A big mistake that I see with a lot of authors who are doing their own covers, or a lot of new designers, is that they try and cram a story into their cover. You don't have to do that. Heck, your cover doesn't even have to have anything to do with the story. Honestly, I've read some very successful books where the cover had, I was like, that scene was just not in there. But I had already read the whole book and paid my money by that point, and I loved the book or I hated it. The cover didn't factor in at that point, other than as a curiosity. What your cover wants to do is be attractive at a little thumbnail, because remember, most people are going to buy this on Amazon or online now, especially during the pandemic when no one goes to a brick and mortar store for the most part. You want it very appealing when it's small, which means a simple central design element. Even this one here, which is my newest book, and it's doing quite well. If I want to redo it at some point, and I do redo my covers, I'll probably simplify it, because there's 3 elements here, and that's just too much. This one is much more successful, I think, the forest. And again, because of the green screen issue, you can't see it as well, but this is greenery, trees, and a person with a red backpack walking off. And it's mirrored underneath with no person. And so there's stuff to see as you come in closer, but ultimately it's a cool cover here. This is a guy with a bloody knife. Cool cover here. You know, African tree with a fun highlight that pulls your eye in real close. So you want to have this simple design element. If you have a lot of books like I do, you want to have branding. So your books have to, first of all, fit into their genre. So if you look at Strangers here, that is a horror. And I don't think anyone would mistake it for anything else. Strangers still is a horror thriller. So we've got a less over-the-top sort of terror element. Let's move along to one of the other genres. Here's one. The Dark Lights is sci-fi horror. We got a guy in a spacesuit and a dark background. You know what you're getting into. This Darkness Light is action. And we've got this guy walking into a trashed place. It's apocalyptic action, you know, with a sniper rifle over his shoulder. All of these things into their genres. This one is actually tired, so very tired. It is, I kept an online journal of me going crazy during the first 100 days of COVID. And so I made a mockery of self-help things. And this actually looks like a self-help book. It would fit in just fine on the self-help. Sword Chronicles, very clearly fantasy. Lost Girl. This is going to be YA with a love element. So you can see all this. Beyond that, though, you'll notice that there is, even though, let's show you one more. Let's go over here. Because I also write romance. It's a totally different kind of cover that does fit in with the romance. Okay. But even though I do that, there's this consistent branding across the board. You'll notice that my name is written exactly the same in every one of them. There's a couple it isn't. Those were published earlier, and I just haven't gotten around to revamping them yet. And that happens. 1 or 2 of them just work really well as is. The deep works just like that, and I will sacrifice branding to make it work. But you'll notice even on these ones where the branding isn't the same, the deep crime scene, my name is front and center. It is as big as the title a lot of the time, most of the time. A lot of new authors, a lot of intermediate authors, they feel like they haven't earned their name in lights. You know, I'm a second tier, I'm a third tier, whatever. My name was huge from the very first book I published. What are you going to do? What are you going to wait for? You want people to know, hey, this is a Tim Jones book. This is a Sarah May adventure. I suck at making up names. But you want them to know who you are and see that. So don't be afraid to make your name big. But again, you'll notice if I have a big title, here's Stranger Still, and I have a big name, that leaves about a quarter of open space, which I use up for my tagline. So if you have a bunch of stuff going on this cover, it makes it busy. It makes it terrible. It's very hard. So make it, just to do a précis here, single simple image that people can pick out when it's a very small thumbnail. You want to have your covers fit into the genre, and you want them identifiable as you. The easiest way is name branding. But if you look at all my covers, I also favor high contrast with a lot of saturation. There are exceptions. This Stranger Danger is less saturated, but even then there's a really high contrast. You go from dark to light and back again. Stranger Still, super dark with these little pops. All through there, you see that. So all of my books have this kind of unifying concept that I use, and that makes people comfortable with them. So even if they're turning to a romance, they're like, well, it looks a lot like Michaelbrent's other books, sort of self-conscious or subconsciously, and they'll go for that stuff. Oh, everyone knows that I bought kitty litter now. Oh, and that's another thing. Don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, this is a learning adventure. And if you're upset and crappy about it, you're not going to last, okay? Let's see. Next thing that we're going to go to. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. There's just so much to go through. Oh, here's what we're going to do next. We're going to go through some descriptions. Oh, yeah. Oh, awesome. Sorry, you're really quiet. It's hard to hear you through my huge voice.
All right, hello. So we do have a
Hit me.
couple of questions here. So most of
Uh-huh.
these are based around Amazon specifically. So first one
Yes.
from Michael Hawley is, do we need an Amazon Author Central account before we have a book to be published?
It won't hurt to have it. I mean, here's the thing. You don't get penalized for looking. Okay? So sign up for anything you can. You don't want to necessarily click publish on an image or on a book before it's ready. But I have signed up to lots of services, not just Amazon, but business things, and I don't use them. But they're there, they're in the top of my head. One of the things you're going to do is anytime you see something of interest, anytime your friend posts, I use this, BookBub, you're going to go, what's BookBub? Don't just keep scrolling Facebook. Look it up. Sign up for it. Okay. You don't necessarily want your front face stuff appearing, but if you can sign up for it, do so. I honestly don't know if you can sign up for Author Central without a book. I think you can. And if you can, go for it. Won't hurt anything. And you can start niggling with the details of your author bio and things like that until it works really well. You can, telling people I suck is just, it's funny, but it's funny in a class clown sort of way. I mean, if you're going to write a comedy, that tired, so very tired thing that I was showing you, let's see if I can find that again. That has some obviously stupid stuff. Down here it says, #1 bestseller. Let's open it up so that we can see it. It's because it's just silly. So if you're writing a comedy, sure, lead with the silliness. Okay. So right here, #1 bestseller, guru, spiritual leader, guiding light, and never seen in the same room as Batman. That is not super social proof objectively. And it's made worse by down here, by Michaelbrent Collings, JD, which is true. Writers Guild of America, Horror Writers of America, LOL, and ICUP. Look, I have totally destroyed any credibility of me being serious with this book, but that's okay. It's a comedy. If I put on Strangers, voted the worst book on ranker.com, it's not going to do well for you. And also, remember there's this click inside thing, or look inside, and people can just click that and they're going to be able to read the beginning of your book. And people do that. And if they're put off by the grammar, by the word choices, by the way it's formatted, they're not going to buy it. Time is precious. It's the only thing we can't make more of. It's a resource that once you use it, it's gone. So no, you can't do that. It's not a good idea. And even if you manage to make a couple sales from people who think, they're the ones who signed up on Patreon to watch someone make potato salad, but they didn't sign up for his Patreon page forever. And it's not a good business model. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, we have a whole bunch of them, but we're going to go ahead and just take a couple just so that we can keep moving.
Cool. Why don't we do one more good one?
Yes. So, Monjo asks, I was told to always get an ISBN prior to publishing on Amazon, even though they can also do that. Is this advisable?
It totally depends on your business model. And some people swear by it. They want their own ISBN so that they can take it. But the thing is, your ISBN is edition specific. So if you have one for your ebook, you're going to have another one for your print book. And if you take it off Amazon, it's not being published by Amazon anymore. So you're looking at, if you're going to publish through someone other than Amazon, you're going to go through Ingram or something like that, and then flow through to those other online retailers. That's a choice you have to make. Personally, I don't do it. I don't find a need. More and more people are buying ebooks, and Amazon provides the ISBN for a print book. I'm happy to have them do that. I'm not planning on opening my own imprint anytime soon, even though, look, I have like 40, 50 books. I have enough that I could do it. And I do have a imprint name written Insomnia Press, but that's just mostly for the letterhead. I'm letting Amazon do the heavy lifting. There are reasons to do it, but I'm not going to comment on those because I've chosen not to. So my advice there is look into it further yourself. There are reasons, and I do have very successful friends who do it. I just have never found a need or an additional value that offsets the cost in time and money. And that's what you always have to look at, is how much does this cost? How much do I make, either immediately or over time? And that can be a complex metric. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. Awesome questions. Break in with those. And Vin is the LTUE contact, and she's awesome. So thanks, Vin. All right, so let's go to the next thing, which is your description. This is a book that did really well. It's got 323 ratings, which is like, if you're writing erotica, that's not much. If you're writing horror, this is a butt ton. And that's a metric butt ton. It's not like a standard unit butt ton, which is much smaller. So it's got a 4.5 out of 5. This is not my highest rated book. It's not even close, believe it or not. But it did really well. It was on horror bestseller lists, top level and horror suspense for almost a year. So it did really well. You'll notice there's this single, again, image. There's a ticket of some kind. If you get up close, it says bus ticket, but it doesn't matter. You can see it's a ticket, and you can see a bloody handprint, and that provides what you need for a book cover, that simple image. You want the book cover to create a question in the viewer's mind. What is that about? How do I answer? I got to read it. You also want to give them a sense of the genre. Again, this is gritty. I made the background gritty. I actually used like a moldy, messed up background as a floor. And subconsciously, that provides the grit. It's a detail, but it's not a primary one. I wouldn't have blown that up and tried to include that as well as this handprint. All right, so we're going to move over to talk about the description. Descriptions are the other area. Let me grab a note real quick. Okay, so descriptions are the other area. New people and a lot of intermediate level and even some pretty successful people, they're just not good at it. I'm going to tell you a little story. So we're going to talk about what's on the screen in just a sec, but back to me. Sign up. Sign up. That's me. When I go to Comic Cons, I have a table where I sell books, or my assistants sell books, and I sign books. That's one of the reasons I go. Again, it's a business decision. I'm making money. People will come up to me, and I've got a table in the author's alley. I don't get a huge booth because, again, the return on investment's smaller. I make, a couple grand just selling books at Comic Cons, and I don't want to put out $1,000 for a huge booth. So people come and buy these books, and next to me are other tables selling books. The people talk to me. I can run through sales of 20 different titles before the person to the right has gotten through a description of their first book. Who do you think they're going to buy from? I mean, first of all, numerically, I can pitch them more stuff. More importantly, and this is seriously, it's more important, is the person who's taking all that time is disrespecting their audience from the beginning. You don't want to start off with that. You're insulting them because you're saying, my time is unlimited. I expect yours to be as well. What I tell people is think of a baby picture. Every one of us has had someone come up and give us their baby picture and say, oh, my kid did something adorable. And we kind of want to run for the hills a lot of the time because who cares? The baby's really important to the parent. But for me, it looks like any other baby. Okay. Now, if the parent comes up to me and says, so Timmy's face caught fire yesterday, and now I'm in, because they have provided something of value. They've provided this extraordinary moment and this great question. So they can then say, to understand the fire, let's back up to the fallopian tube and move from there. And I'm still in because that fire is so extraordinary. But you can't tell them your story, okay? You don't lead with Timmy's story. You lead with a hook. So we're going to go through a pretty successful book of mine and talk about how I designed the cover copy. And I do similar things for all my cover copy. Resist the impulse to read ahead. We'll get to it all. Up here, this is not cover copy, but it is a business decision that's very important to me. So during coronavirus, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are stuck inside. Cannibalism is a real threat in our house at all times. It's tough. And so when it all kind of became serious, March of last year, I put all of my books sale. All of them have been at $2.99 or 99 cents. I kept them on for 99 cents for almost a year, actually. And even now, I haven't raised them to my full price. They're still $2.99. And that's because part of my business model is kindness. I really do want to serve people. I want to help them. I have to put food on my table, which means I'm charging them, but I'm giving them value. And I genuinely appreciate my fans, potential readers. If they can feel that appreciation and that love, that's going to help you a lot. Okay, so this little thing up here, this is a blurb, and you'll notice that it appears on the website, that first paragraph, which would normally be kind of my social blurb. You can actually see this first paragraph. So I'm leading with this kindness thing, but normally it would be this. Okay, internationally best-selling author and multiple Bram Stoker Award finalist, brings you one of the best reads of 2019 and a top 10 read of 2019 by these two, Sci-Fi and Scary and Horror After Dark, which are well known in the horror readership industry. So this is social proof. If you have this, I think this is a marvelous thing to lead with, because what it does is you're basically telling them, I am not a guy living in my mom's basement hoping someday my rock band makes it big, my lottery investment pays off, or I write a best-selling book. You're telling people, like, I've practiced my craft. This is exactly the same reason that the doctor has their degree hanging on the wall behind them. It's very helpful. It's comforting. Excuse me. I'm an author. I don't wake up this early. But you don't want it to be front and center. This is a sentence packed with information. It's just to give them a sense of it. Okay, this would be my first line typically. And what it sets up, again, is this kind of vibe. All passengers, please prepare for departure. And it's used in conjunction with the cover. It sets up this feeling. Let's just skip that. Okay. What I've done throughout also is I interject social proof throughout. And most people don't have all of this. I find it's very helpful. I've had a couple people say you should get rid of that because it breaks up your story. I disagree. I think if you have a great review by Publishers Weekly, by Hell Notes in horror, they're one of the top ones, stick it in periodically to remind people you're awesome. And if your words of your story are good enough, you're going to drag through anyways. Okay. You don't have to do that. I do it. I do want to point out this formatting. You'll notice it's different here, different here, different here. All those formatting things are things you can do through the Kindle Unlimited or the KDP dashboard if you know some coding and you understand how it works with their interface. Or you can just do it through Author Central. It's a great reason to have Author Central because you can make all these little changes on the back end and it looks nicer. All right, so here's the story though. And again, pay attention to the fact I am giving them the hook. I'm telling them why Timmy's face is on fire. An employee, a cop, and 6 passengers, a prisoner, a stowaway, and a madman. And right now, we have some really interesting threats set up. I mean, this madman thing, they're like, well, that's not going to go well with the cop or the 6 passengers. We've already got a conflict set up in one sentence. We also have our characters. Okay, so we have characters, a bit of conflict, setting. These are the people waiting at the Lawton bus terminal. Late night travelers who want nothing more than to get to their destinations, employees who want nothing more than to get through the graveyard shift. So in 3 sentences, we've set up a very typical yet compelling understanding of what is happening in this book. And then a strange otherworldly fog rolls in. The night changes to nightmare because something hides in the fog. Something powerful, something strange, something inhuman. Soon those in the terminal have been cut off from the rest of the world. And this is the first. Oh, crap. Okay. No phones, no computers, just 10 strangers in the terminal and the other. The other is a force in the mist. The other is the thing that has captured them. And the other wants to play a game. So let's actually count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll call this 6. These are sentence fragments, but 7, 8, 9, 10. We have set up all of the rules to get to the hook. Okay. If someone comes up to you with 10 sentences, we're talking about 15, 20 seconds. That is easily sparable. That's an elevator pitch. And then I hit them with this. Here's the game. The rules are simple. The people in the terminal must choose a single person from among them. That person will live. The rest will die. Anyone who attempts to leave the terminal before the final vote will die, and the final vote must be unanimous. A nightmare, and getting worse because the best way to make a vote unanimous is to kill the other voters. So in 15 sentences, I have given them the hook. This part, the rules are simple. This is the main hook, that there's this otherworldly thing making them do this horrible game. And this doesn't happen, I don't know, until page 40 or 50. So a lot of authors, number one, they're going to spend all this lead up time because they desperately want people to know that this employee is a good woman who got away from the hood. This guy's a cop who killed, they want to let them know all the baggage, all the backstories. No one cares. No one cares about little Timmy. They care a lot that his face is on fire. And then, how about this? Your coworker walks up and says, Timmy's face caught fire yesterday. And they go, who's Timmy? And you hold out a picture and go, I'll show you. when I feel like it. They're going to do anything to find out what's in that picture. You've just pulled them in, and they're going to do anything, meaning they're going to click the little buy book or the little buy button. They're going to purchase it. And then the nice thing about this is it's easily conveyable, not just by the author, but to others. Okay. So you want something really simple, really easy. You want to tell them the hook. And if you're worried, well, that's the big twist, I don't want them to know, then your book's going to fail. And I don't mean to be mean, but if you tell everything fascinating and important on your Amazon page, that means you have not very good book. You have told them all of the good, cool parts in a couple paragraphs, and you think people are going to stick around for that for 300, 400, 500 pages? No. You should have enough interesting, neat things packed in that you can give up some biggies and still have them love the movie. It's like the Avengers trailers show all these cool things. They're not the only cool things in the movie. Okay. Let's do another one real quick. How are we doing on time? We're good. Sword Chronicles, that's a good one, but let's do a little different one. Oh, here's this one. So Strangers. This is a really good one. It illustrates something really neat. Again, you'll notice 4.4, 519 ratings. Again, that's ridiculous for a horror novel by an indie. And look at the entire length of the pitch. When you get rid of, again, these social proofs, and it got great reviews, so I'm going to tell people, here's what the description is. You wake up in the morning to discover that you've been sealed into your home. And notice, I wrote it like it's the reader. I did that on purpose. It makes the reader identify with the story. It makes it of value to the reader. Oh my gosh, I've been sealed into my home? The doors are locked. The windows are barred. There's no way out. A madman, great word for horror, is playing a deadly game with you and your family. A game with no rules, only consequences. So what do? Do you run? Do you hide? Or do you die? Now again, I have conveyed the setup. Family, crazy guy. Crazy guy locks them in their house with himself inside and wants to screw with them. I haven't told them anything else. And again, they're not locked inside until like page 70. So I haven't revealed a hook that hits right away, but I've revealed the main hook of the book. And it's still going to pull people in because the question it sets up is, oh my gosh, how do I get out of that? I use this tricky, how to get out of your home. How do I get out of that? And they're going to want to buy the book. The cover and the description are going to do very similar things. They're simple, they're catchy, they're fast, and they set up this critical question that can only be answered by reading the book. Okay. The cover can serve to ask the question, what happens? Which gets them to read the description, at which point they go, where's the rest of it? And they should be clicking, at the very least, look inside. They should be looking at it where they're going to find out if you're going to be a good writer. But if you write something really cool like this, they're already going to trust you. And they have to trust you. I mean, if you think about it, you are setting up an establishment in their brain neighborhood. They have to let you move in, and they're going to have to trust that they get something out of it. Okay, so if you look at, here's Stranger Danger. It's my most recent one. Again, the whole thing is spaced out, but it's really short if you're looking at just the actual story. And by the way, this is the third in a series. So it is longer because at this point, if people are buying this, they really want to know right away. They've been waiting for the main character. It's actually the main character of Strangers. This is book 3. The main character is named Legion, and people have been waiting for 6 months, a year for Legion's next story, and they want a little extra. But then you go over to the complete Colony. This is an entire series. 2 sentences, 3 sentences, 4 sentences, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for a whole series. And this is selling as a box set really well. and it's got great reviews. Okay. Again, look at the cover. It's really punchy. You don't need to tell them everything. You're not selling them every aspect of a house. You're selling them curb appeal. Okay, you want to get through that. You want to get through it fast. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Once you've gotten all this put together, you've got your business or your product set up. At the same time, let's go back to me again. At the same time, you are going to be setting up kind of the nuts and bolts of your actual business, not the product, which is your books, and later on your merchandising and stuff like that. Like I sell merchandise because there's actually enough people that care about my books that they're willing to put my name on their chest, which is awesome. So once you've got your products, you're going to be building up your business. A lot of people will ask me whether they should incorporate, whether they should be a sole proprietor. That is a question you need to ask an accountant and a lawyer. I will say, if you're making $8 a year on your book sales, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. If you're an indie, that's where we all start mostly, and even somebody who has something right out of the gate, I went to $8 a year after that. So we've all been there. That's fine. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You can tell people straight up, and it makes them appreciative of you. Oh yeah, I've been there, and there's hope for you. I might be there again. And the fact that I dug out of it gives me hope for me. So you confront with that. But if you're making $5 a year, don't incorporate. The primary reasons to have an incorporated entity are, number one, it goes on forever. So if you're a sole proprietor and you die and you want everything to go to your wife, it has to go through this probate process. Whereas if you have a corporation and you and your spouse both own it jointly, you die, she keeps owning it. There's no glitches. The other big reason is protecting you from lawsuits, because if they sue the corporation, they're going to not go after your house. But the thing of that is first of all, that applies when you're damaging people. So like, what's somebody going to claim about damaging? They're going to say the electrons of your books were so heavy that when I dropped my Kindle on my face, falling asleep reading your awesome book, it broke my nose and I want medical costs. Like, there's not a real huge danger of being sued for something like that. Mostly you're talking about, if I'm Albertsons, I want to protect the owners of Albertsons, want to protect themselves from being sued when a pallet falls on a customer or something like that. The other thing is, you can actually, it's called piercing the corporate veil, where someone attacking the corporation proves that the corporation is essentially a bank account for the owner, in this case, the author. And that really applies for most authors. I mean, we don't have a big inventory unless you have like a home, a warehouse with thousands of books, and that proves a really different business entity. But for the most part, money is going to come into the corporation and then go into your bank account. So it's much easier to pierce the corporate veil in that situation, a lot less protection. There are tax benefits to having a corporation when you get to a certain point. Again, talk to an accountant, talk to a lawyer. There's pluses and minuses for both. And that's something that you have to work out according to what money you're making, how risk averse you are, things like that. More important is the question of what kind of business you're going to be. And I talked about this a lot yesterday. I had a presentation on being a business. And one of the biggest things that authors fail at is the business mindset. Okay. You are a business. You're not an author. If you're an indie, you are a publisher. You have an author hat, and that's where you're writing and thinking about ideas and making life hell for your family because you're mumbling to yourself, walking in a circle. That's kind of my MO when I'm starting. And that's really fun, but that's not you being a business person. That's you being a creator. As soon as you're done with that part, every day, because you're going to have to be a business person every day, you put on a different hat. Authors have this low self-esteem thing, imposter syndrome for all creators, and it makes it really hard for us to go and ask for money. Someone says, "Oh, I like your work," and you go, What do I have to give you? And it doesn't work that way. You're a business. You're going to offer them $10 of value for a $5 return. So you're saying, I'm going to give you a $10 book, give me $5. That is a sale. And think about how many hours of entertainment you get out of a book. A good book, you get a full read through. A great book they can enjoy for years. They're paying pennies on the hour. So if you've done them a service with a good story, you don't have to feel bad asking for money. I have this, this online ad or this online course about writing, and it's expensive. I've never had anybody ask for a refund. They get the value out of it. And I'm happy to do the discount for LTUE because I love LTUE. And it's still a return, though. I'm not going to give it for free as much as I love LTUE because that doesn't make sense as a business. I spent weeks on the course, and just giving it away means I threw away that time at my family's expense. And I can't do that. I mean, morally, is it more wrong to ask someone to pay half price for a good deal or to have your family be homeless? And that really changes your mindset. Additionally, again, you are a customer-centered business. And I don't mean the way Amazon says. What Amazon is saying is, by pretending to be nice as our core value, we have found we make more money. You really, as an author, creator, business person, want to be kind and nice and always offer value, because then you're not selling, you're helping. It's very difficult to sell. It's very easy to help. People like to help. People like to be helped. And that turns customers into friends. Something I tell people, and this is important as you advance in your career, there is no author in the world who makes enough money selling books to survive. No author in the world. What about James Patterson? What about J.K. Rowling? They do not. They do not make enough money selling their books to survive. They make all that money by having other people sell their books. And that's what you are going to do. You're going to have people who are excited about your books and word of mouth. You're going to have ad platforms that you pay to sell your books for a greater return. And from the customer side, if you're being nice, if you're being kind, that's going to matter as well. When I had a huge dip, the market changed. And again, I didn't know what I had done to succeed in the first place. Excuse me, I got a drink. I feel like it's almost a requirement that if you're an author, you have to have a caffeine or an alcohol addiction. Mine's caffeine. So I have had people note, well, sorry, let me back up. The market changed. I didn't know what I'd done. My career crashed. And it got to a point where I was looking at writing versus taking care of my family. And I'm going to take care of my family every time. So I announced on my Facebook page, I'm going to have to step back. I'm not going to write anymore. And I immediately got some emails from some very top level writers who basically said, this is not okay. The industry needs you. What can we do to help? And in some cases, here's what I'm doing to help. And they devoted time. They devoted monetary support in some cases. Like, they wanted to help to the point where they were unwilling to let me fail. And part of that is they were fans of my work, but they also had made friendships with me. I love these people, and I did before they helped me. So you want to have this customer-based attitude, this kindness, this service. What can I do to help you? And the answer for most of those is, how can you entertain me? And you want to do that well, and then they're going to start selling for you. You start a little cult. I actually have my street team, which I hope we can talk about in a bit, is called the Collings cult. And it's tongue in cheek, but the reality is these people are crazy zealous about my work, and they're out selling it. And they just do it because they love it, but they're getting value. They're getting a return, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So keep that business mindset. Incorporation is not a thing I can tell you for sure what to do, but you have to be a business. Okay, one of the things that goes along with being a business in the 21st century. Oh, yeah, please.
All right, so there was a request to have you repeat the question after me because I am, in fact,
Okay.
so faint. So Natasha
Well,
Watts asks, specifically, what about LLCs? I thought that was pretty common for indie authors. So LLCs specifically.
okay, LLC, it's just a kind of corporate. Oh, the person asked, what about LLCs? I've heard those are very common. Okay, there are different kinds of corporate entities. There are S corps, there are C corps, there are LLCs. LLCs are favored by indie authors. And again, I'm not a lawyer. Talk to a lawyer. I used to be a lawyer, so I understand it a bit, I think, but I am legally prohibited from saying, and here's the advice. But for me, LLCs are typically the easiest to organize. They're limited liability, which again, we talked about that. They create a bit of that shell, and that's their main purpose. They're not going to have a lot of stock or shareholders, owners. It's going to be a smaller thing, and there's a lot more pass through. That is, the money goes to the LLC, and it's streamlined how it goes into the author's pocket or the owner's pocket. That again, there's reasons to have these other corporate entities, but I can't say this enough. Okay, if you're making $10 a year, don't have an LLC. Why? You're going to spend more to put a little LLC on your letterhead and have to pay extra taxes, which is just doesn't seem like a smart move. So yes, they're favored. The reason is they're simple. You can actually set them up yourself. Although I always recommend, again, talking to a lawyer, because most lawyers, there's a lot of lawyers who specialize in that, and they'll do the whole thing for you for, $300-400 plus whatever the filing fees are in your state. So get a lawyer to do it right. And when I talk about these investments, I know it's hard to spend money, but I do ask people, if you're not willing to spend $200 on your career, how can you ever expect to make that back? I mean, you're asking strangers to pay for something that you don't believe in enough to work for and invest in. Time is great, but it's not enough. Any more questions, Vin?
Yes, so from Lisa Catmull, expanded distribution versus IS versus Nook. We might be getting into this later.
I touched on it a little bit, and the short answer that I touched on, we're talking about being on different services. When we talk about she asked about expanded distribution. Amazon itself has an option on the KDP board that it says, do you want expanded distribution? And again, I'm going to talk mostly about Amazon because they're the big one you're going to focus on, certainly at the beginning. Unless you live in China or I want to say Germany. Tolino has a bigger presence there than Amazon, but I'm assuming most of these people are in the United States, the UK, Canada. So if you go on the KDP dashboard, you're putting your book on, and it'll give you the option when you're doing your print book to do an expanded distribution. And what that means, they're saying, is we'll make it available to libraries, to universities, things like that. I never press that button, ever, ever, ever. Okay, because it makes it cost more on my side. So when I do a print book, Amazon says it's $7 to make. We're going to take 3 and you get 4, let's say, so on a $14 book. As soon as I click expanded distribution, for some reason, Amazon says now you're only going to get $2. And how many books have I sold to libraries? Some, enough to offset that print cost, because they put that print cost on all your books. That is, on all of that title, whether it's bought on Amazon or through their expanded distribution by a regular person or a library. And guess where most libraries get their books anyways? Amazon. So, especially from indies. I never click that. If you're asking about exclusive to Amazon versus in these other places, or exclusive to Kobo, because Kobo also offers this, it's a decision you have to make based on your own metrics and your own experience. And that is part of what you have to recognize as an advanced author. You can't answer any of these questions overnight. They require testing and they require time. And that's any business. I mean, even if you open mom and pop's barbecue and you have the best ribs in the world, objectively, and that's all that's on your menu, that's your focus. You have a great product, but you're still going to have to experiment with advertising. Is this location good? And that's going to take years. And then you get a little higher, like, should we franchise? And that'll take more years. Okay, so these questions of exclusive to this platform, expanded distribution, they really require some A/B testing, which is a fancy way of saying, do it this way, change a single thing, and see if it's better over here. Okay, and you'll do that with lots of different and very diverse facets of your work. Anything else, Vin?
One last one here from
Awesome.
Hamster of War. What can I do to protect myself from the kind of people who will sue me because someone decided my book was an instruction manual to do evil things?
Okay, Hamster of War. I'm not sure whether I'm afraid of you or want to be your best friend. The question is, how do I protect myself from people who will sue me because they've decided my book is an instruction manual for war practices and I want to destroy their friends or whatever? You protect yourself. I mean, you can have a corporate entity, in which case the corporation technically owns your books, and so they get sued. But if you're talking about how can I keep from getting sued, a crazy person is going to sue you no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you're protected or not. You're going to have to put time and resources into dealing with the crazy person. When I was an attorney, I was actually a litigation attorney for construction companies. And we just told them, no matter how good you are, just expect to be sued because it's a business cost, unfortunately. The good news is it does happen less with authors. I mean, if you write in your book, I want you to go murder people, here's how, you might be on shaky footage, or footing. But if you're just writing an adventure book where someone happens to know how to kill people, there's not a lot of problem with that. I mean, I've been writing murder books for 10 years, and I know this isn't a joke. The NSA has got to have some kind of a file on me because I research regularly things like how to make an IED, how to get on the dark web and buy people, how to blow up buildings. And I actually, for one series called the Colony Saga, I walked around every high rise in my area and tried to figure out how I would destroy it. Here it is. It's let me show you my cool little page thing here. Right here. That's the book. And I was walking around looking at stuff. So even that, no one sued me because there's descriptions. Oh, sorry, I didn't point. Yeah, that one. Even that one, there's descriptions of really massive stuff. No one's ever sued me. But if a crazy person wants to sue you, the problem is they're crazy. And they're going to do the irrational thing. And part of your author life is going to be mopping up after crazy people. There was a person at the beginning of the pandemic who wrote me and was concerned about their life. And I started this, trying to be like, stick with it. And they've made my life kind of miserable on some levels, not all levels. And I like the person, but you have to just get used to dealing with the inconveniences, let's say, the inconveniences of running your business. All right, let's move on. So we're talking about being a business. And let me click over to my desktop again. There we go. One of the things you have to have is a website. Okay. I talk to some older people, and it's never too late. You're never too old to start. I mean, from a time factor, if you're 94, your chances of making a huge career and millions of dollars, they're lessened because you don't have more than 30 or 40 years left, right? That's what I'm going to live to, 140. You don't have as much time, but you can start anytime. And whenever I speak to older groups or an older person, and I say this, they get upset. You have to have a website. Not all the time, sorry, they don't all get upset, but they're like used to a world where your product, your brick and mortar location sells it. Nowadays, I'd be willing to bet if we were all in a room together, and I've asked this question to large rooms, I say, how many of you hear a new name, are recommended a service? Like you ask your friends, I need someone to fix my car, and they send you names, and what's the first thing you do? Go to their website. And if you're anything like me, if they don't have a website, or if their website is crappy, you immediately go, I don't know how professional these folks are. Okay, so here's my website, and I want you to notice it's really simple. Simple, simple, simple. Simple's always better. And it's almost all of it's on one page. Here's my sign up for free books. We'll talk about that later. There's this social proof. Down here, some of the things I've been on. Publishers Weekly voted one of the top 100 all-time greatest horror writers on Ranker, Bram Stoker Award nominee, things like that. But that's down at the bottom. Up here, what do you see? My branding. That should be everywhere. People should be totally aware when they're looking at a Michaelbrent story, they're going to have this creepy eye looking at them, and this exact Michaelbrent Collings. They know to look for it. Once they've read a couple and they love them, they'll just see that and they don't even see the cover or the title or the description. They're just buying this. And you want them to be able to do that. You have to have a website. I'm not going to detail how to set it up. Again, I set my own up, so it's possible to do. But it takes time. And it's something that a lot of people outsource. And I'm actually outsourcing some of it now just because I love doing all this stuff, but I don't have time. And that's a good problem to have. Oh, I'm so busy with my money-making business that I can't afford to do the fun things. But I do have this website. Here's my books, newest titles, Audible, thrillers, horror. It goes through all this stuff so they can find it real easy. Get a free book, which you'll notice that was on the screen that I opened with you. This little free books thing over here. And that's a big way to bring people in. You're a crack dealer. First one's free. Merchandising, become my Patreon supporter. Find me on fan page and YouTube and all that good stuff. Here's a news and reviews section, and let's talk about that. Okay, so down here, I've been on all these things. I've been interviewed by Rue Morgue, which is a big magazine for horror, San Francisco Book Review, Dragon Award finalist. I've done TEDx. I've been on NPR. Publishers Weekly has started kind of picking up my books and reviewing them not automatically. They miss some, but like I've had a number of them reviewed in the last year. And most indies have to buy a paid review. So how do you get to this point? This is a really important thing. And someone asked about setting up your Author Central ahead of time. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about, definitely start as fast as possible. If you can start before your book comes out, do it. So how do you get on these big things? If you click up here, here's my news and reviews. And I've already clicked it for you because I'm a kind and loving overlord. Here's my news, reviews, and media. So here's my reviews. It's not all of them. We are down to 2015 now. Okay. And the thing, let's start here. Review of Life, the Universe, and Everything Conference by Robin Weeks. This is just someone's blog. Okay, you go down to interviews, media and interviews. Oh, let's get down to the bottom. Okay, 2010, interview with two ends of the pen. This is a very decent website. They do writing advice. They were much, much smaller in 2010. And how did I get on it? I emailed them and said, hey, I have a book. But if I hadn't had a book, I could have said, hey, I know English stuff. Use whatever your credentials are. My dad was an English professor, creative writing director at a major university, and I'm a lawyer and me write good. And I asked, can I write something? And they said, sure. And I did. And then it was good enough. They said, hey, feel free to submit again. I don't even remember how I hooked up with this person, but it probably was me reaching out to everybody. And this person said, yeah, let me interview you. Another one, Two Ends of the Pen. These are podcasts with Book That Author, which in 2011 was small. So how do you get to Publishers Weekly and NPR and things like that? You build. You're going to start off doing a mom and pop podcast where the entire listenership is two people. And you're like, hey, I can add 50% to your audience by being on it because I'll listen. And they're going to be excited about that. And then you can go to the next person and say, hey, I was on Mom and Pop, and I know you have twice the listenership with 4 people, but I really think I could help you. And they take you, and then 8, and then 16. You should definitely start this publicity cycle early. Even if you don't have a book, if you're an expert in something, you can position yourself as an expert. Of course, if it is something that is more related to your fiction, that's better. But when I started, let's go back here. When I started, this screen actually had down here some construction related articles I had written. And it was something to fill it out. And again, it's social proof that you use as a stepping stone. Okay. You're not going to jump from here all the way up to here, being on World Class Performer, being on an ABC affiliate, stuff like that. You're not going to jump from this little tiny Ventura County Star, it's a tiny newspaper, all the way up to here where we're talking about Publishers Weekly and Rue Morgue and things like that. You're not going to be able to do that, but you can move from here to here. From here, we'll skip that. This is about my movie stuff, and that's actually pretty huge. But that's just because I did some movie stuff. But moving from here to here was a small step. From here to here, you'll notice this name, Dr. Michael R. Collings. That's my dad. Okay, I put my dad's article, and that'll never go off because I love my dad. And I'm proud when he likes my stuff. But all this stuff, did you, while I was scrolling, say, holy crap? Because I get a lot of that. I'm still in 2017, 2016. Even if I had one dynamite review from Publishers Weekly, would that be as cool as having all of this? No, it would not. So the benefit of stepping stones is it gives you a line to the top that is gradual, it's reproducible, you can do it over and over again, you get good at it. I have a cover letter that I send whenever I want to do an interview, and it's a very successful cover letter. So you'll refine your methods, you get higher and higher, and then you also have the benefit of, oh, it wasn't just lucky. This guy's been in it. This gal knows what she's doing. This person's awesome. Okay, so definitely start building your presence. Ask for reviews. Ask to be interviewed. And Comic Cons, by the way, we're in COVID right now, but they're a great place for that. If you see someone wandering around with a camera that looks like they're talking to people, jump in and talk to them. Some of my best contacts, one of them was a podcast that was set up at, I think it was LTUE, and they were in between people, and I just sat down in the guest position. Sorry, me writer use words good. I sat down in the guest spot and said, so when do we talk to me? And I was being silly, and they liked that. And they put me on for a couple minutes. And it was a decent sized podcast, and we made really good friends. And that guy will interview me anytime I ask. I'll just email and say, I have a new book. He's like, come on, you're funny. And again, I'm giving him some value. I'm saying, I'm not just going to sit there and shill, just talk about my own books and pimp my stuff. I'm going to give your audience some fun because you and I talk about really stupid, crass jokes. And I mean, they're not horrific. They're pretty PG-13, but they're just dumb and hilarious. But we have such a good time. He's like, come on. I will talk about your book because in between that, we are going to make my audience laugh. So we're still providing benefit. So you always, as much as you want this big, long page, every single one of these, you provide benefit to them. International thriller writers, that's the big, huge thriller writers group. I mean, this is an enormous group, and they've had me written up, I don't know, a dozen times or something. And it's because every time I try and give them a really fun interview. I'm not just there talking about myself, I'm talking about stuff that I think they will enjoy and their audience will enjoy. All right. And then here is the last thing. Here's your guest blogs. And there's some overlap with interviews and guest blogs. Oops, I got to fix that. But this is all me writing. And again, people are hungry for content. Go to a place that you find that you like and say, hey, can I write an article for you? It'll be about something that is important to you. And here's why I'm an expert. Okay, so this is all part of your publicity. Self-publicity is important. Again, this is a method of having others sell for you, because what you're saying is, I'm going to give you content that is of value, and then they disseminate it for you. And in your content, you talk about your own work. You're not just going to shill. Here's a really effective thing. If you know that this is a blog about self-publishing, you say, hey, I'd love to talk about something that I've spoken to you folks about, how to write a good description on your back cover copy. And they say, we'd love that. How am I going to do that? Same way I did it with you guys. I'm going to use my books as examples. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a Comic-Con or a writing convention or something and talked about this. And I go, here's what Strangers is about. And I give them you're locked in your house, madman inside, wants to have fun. How do you get out? How do you survive? And I say, I'm telling you that so we can analyze it. But by the time I've told them the concept, I always have people coming and buying whatever book I described. Okay. So you're going to do that on your blog posts and things like that. You're going to use your own work as a useful source that will help to illuminate them. Do not use your stuff as a sales method. Use it as a handy tool in your service to them. It's much more effective. All right. Now we've gone through all of this. Let's go back to my website and we're going to talk about this. Sign up to get free books. If you stick your email address, if you stick your first name, what genres you want to be notified about, because I write in several, or back on this screen, we're talking, see, I can't get it right ever. We're talking about this, textbooks. What people are doing is signing up for my mailing list. And I will send them an email that says, thanks for signing up. Here's your free book. I usually give them more than one. I've promised one, and I'll give several. Because again, you're always giving more than they expect, so that the value's increased and they're more likely to stick with you. And in that opening email, I will tell them about myself and my family. But again, I do it in a way that's respectful. I'm giving them what they asked for. Here's your book, right at the top. And then down below, I say, hey, there's stuff about me if you want to read. But if you don't, you just want the cool book, done. And I don't mind that. But a tremendous number of people do go down and read. I get emails every day. Oh, I loved hearing about your family. And again, even in that lower part that's about my family, that's more personal, I'm trying to give them value. I'm entertaining them. I'm trying to give them a fun slice of life, a little bit of humor, things like that, so that as they're reading, that reading itself is a joy. It's not an excuse to talk about me, because I'm amazing. It is, here's another way that I can help you out. Have some fun reading this. And then after that, they're in my newsletter list, and I can send them, I send a weekly newsletter out, first of all, as part of what I'm trying to do to help them have nice things, have a service. I will send them weekly lists of free bargain 99-cent books, things like that. And that way they're getting something. As a result, I'm also in the top level of their mind. Now, here's why I really encourage a newsletter. And there's the obvious reason that I can tell them when I have a book out. The more important reason is, again, remember how we talked about at the beginning, Amazon's this 9 million pound gorilla. And if Amazon takes over the world and then comes to me and says, Michaelbrent, you are getting 10% instead of 70, or even Michaelbrent, you can't sell on Amazon anymore, which has happened to authors. They have been summarily kicked off of Amazon. So you've just lost your livelihood overnight. How are you going to fall back? Mailing list. You are going to want to have a good, big, vibrant mailing list. And you want this every single time on every single page of your website. In fact, it won't do it now because I've already been on my website. But if you go on this for the first time, there'll even be a pop-up that says, hey, would you like to sign up, get a book? You're offering them value and you're signing them up to be a part of your group. Mine, if you sign up, is called Michaelbrent's Minions. Let's actually go to a shortened URL for that. And you'll see this is another. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so Michael Hawley asks, what do you include on your site if you don't have social proofs? Also, can you specify what social proofs means?
Oh, okay. So what do you have on your site if you don't have social proofs? And what do social proofs mean? So social proofs are just ways of telling people I'm awesome without saying it yourself. Okay. And honestly, the first social proof is you're like, well, my mommy likes me. You know, mommies are required by the Constitution to like you. My mommy thinks I'm so bright, she calls me son. And that's what you start with. But over time, you're going to garner more of these social proofs. So if you're talking about your actual website, let's go back, find that. Okay, this is all my news and reviews stuff. You're not going to have all that. You're going to have a website at first with a lot less stuff on it. And that's okay. And you'll notice, let's see if we can get to, oh, it's slow. I told you I'm having somebody do some work on it, and he's doing it today. Okay, so here we are. You'll notice on my front page website, and most people, they're not going to click on this. They really won't. So where is social proof on this? You don't see a lot of it. And what you do is way down here at the bottom. If I skipped this completely, it'd be fine. It's just an added bell and whistle. It's like you're already giving them a Lexus or a Rolls Royce, and this is just heated seats. You know, it's an extra perk. This website, as long as it's clean and professional, that's going to be very impressive for them. Now, here's some proof from the author whose writing Publishers Weekly calls gripping, visceral. Comes the newest volume in the Stranger series now on Amazon with a little click over. But I could have just said, you know, Legion continues his fight against evil in Stranger Danger. People are going to appreciate that. You're hooking them with your words. All of social proof is extraordinarily, I'm not going to lie, it's extraordinarily helpful. But if you don't have any, what do you put? You put an email into a blog poster and say, can I write a guest blog? You want to have a website. If you don't have the social proof on it, start building it. You don't have to have that first. And again, this is going to be a growth process. Okay. So 5 years ago, my news and reviews area was half as big, or it was even less because it's picked up speed over time. So don't stress if you don't have all of this stuff. That's fine. You do a professional job with what you have. You do a website. It doesn't have moving. I mean, it's got a little bit of movement up here, but it doesn't have super sexy stuff. It's just clean. It's just easy to navigate. And that's what people are looking for. The first time I made my site, it had pop-ups and it looked like any of you are old enough, it looked like a GeoCities site from the 1990s. And this is much more effective. If you don't have all of the bells and whistles up here, merchandise, Patreon, more about me, don't have it. But what you do have, it should look professional. It should be nice. It should be easily usable. Any other questions, Vin? Sorry.
Yes, Natasha Watts asks, do you have a media kit?
If you mean, like, do I have things that I send out to other people? That is, do I have press releases and things like that? Yes, I do. That is to say, I have some forms that I work with, so I don't have to remake the wheel every time. I also do, this is a good point. If you're talking about advertising and stuff like that, I do have a kit that I send out to other people, which has examples of some of my best serving ads and things like that. We'll talk about ads in a bit, hopefully. It's going by so fast because I have really good ads. And ads are actually one of the ways I have built my mailing list. I get a lot of mailing list people through Facebook, for example. And that means you're spending money. Let's say I spend 40 cents to sign up a person. In addition, I also have to purchase the email server because you can't send 40,000 emails from your own server. You'll get shut down for being spam. So you have to join MailerLite or MailChimp or whoever you use. And that costs money. So I'm paying 50 cents, 60 cents, let's say. And that's expensive. But if they buy one of my books at $2.99, I've tripled that investment. So you are going to have ads and things like that. So if you're asking about, do I have stuff that I send to blog posters? Do I have interview requests? Yes, I have forms for that. They're very helpful. You do want to tailor them. People can tell if you're sending a form with no tailoring and they don't like it as a rule. So make sure it has, what I have is a form on Word, and there are big highlighted parts with just nothing but a string of question marks. And it's where I'm going to personalize it. And again, you don't want to schmooze. If I say, I really liked this article on your blog, it's because I liked it. I really did. You don't want to lie, and you want to put stuff that will make them understand that you value their service and their time. If you're interested in having my stuff, examples of my ads and the particulars of how they work, email me here. Oh, I moved it around. What's wrong with me? Email me at info@writteninsomnia.com and ask about that. Just say, hey, I want to purchase your ads, your kit. It's $250. Again, I'm a business. And if you think about that, if I can help you sell 100 books at $2.99, that's paid for itself. So you can feel free to email me. It is very good, though. Very good to have this stuff set and ready. So that was a good question. Do you have your press kit? Do you have your media kit? Yes, I can reach out on 5 minutes notice and contact somebody and ask them if they want me to talk to them. And you ask lots of people. Don't ever think, this is important, don't ever think I'm too small. I've emailed Oprah. Have I been on Oprah? No. But would I ever get on Oprah if I don't email her? No. Or if I did, it would probably be, because I was in some tragic accident and am horribly disfigured and somehow made it through. I wouldn't be there for my writing. I'd be there for a feel-good story or something along those lines. But you can't get on there unless you ask. Sometimes they'll reach out, but 99% of my media contacts I have made myself. And then again, it's that selling for you principle, because I do have news people who have said, hey, I have an associate in a different city who needs to fill 5 minutes for their Halloween, slice of life piece, their feel good piece on the news. And I told them, I know this horror writer. Can they call and interview you? Can they come over to your house with a camera? And I'm like, sure. So you're going to garner those media reviews and use those to step up to others. But you're also, again, you're making these business contacts at every turn. You want to continually be building these relationships with people. Anything else, Vin? All right.
We have one specifically that we're
Oh.
going to wait to do at the end because it is promo, and we appreciate that here.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's one we'll do at the end. But these are great questions. And wonderful thing about being an author. One of my favorite things. I tell people part of my job is being professionally ignorant. If there's something that I want to know, if I'm a 45-year-old lawyer, I can't look at my client and go, I have no idea. That'll be $300 an hour, or whatever it was I was charging. You have to know everything. As an adult, people expect you to know a lot. My kid can walk around, who's 6, can go, why? And it's appropriate. As an adult, you're not supposed to do that. As an author, you get to. So whenever you don't know something, ask the question. Dig up whoever it is, ask them the question. If you see something an author friend is doing successfully and posts about it on Facebook, I'll tell you what, I have big author friends and they're like, I was just interviewed on this. I click over to the interview, I read it because I love these people. I'm a fanboy too. I get so excited meeting professionals. But I'll click over and I'll read it. Oh, that was so good. Where's the contact button? Would you like to have me on? You had my friend. So you're going to constantly ask these questions. People who are asking questions, keep it up. Be professionally ignorant. And it's fun. Like when I was walking around the buildings trying to figure out how to blow them up, it was funny because guards would come up and go, what are you doing? Because I look like a hobo or the Unabomber. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm an author. And they go, oh, it's okay. You have the entertainment value and the threat level of a 5-year-old. So go ahead. All right. So we've talked, a little bit about the mailing list. But again, you're going to direct sell them. If your Amazon disappears for some reason, it's good to have those people. You can just say, hey, buy it through my website from me directly. And there are actually people who do that who are unknown and make 6 figures because they've got this huge readership on their website. So that's a total way to go about it if Amazon drops you. While you're still on those platforms, it's very helpful to have a mailing list. Like I said, I have a mailing list. Michaelbrent's Minions is what it's called. Oh, we were going to go to that. Let's see if we're still. Oh, here it is. Okay, let me switch over to this. All right. So here's one of the sign up pages. And it's very simple. Email, first name required. What genres do you want to know about? Because it's nice for me to be able to send them the right emails. And then they sign up and they join a group called Michaelbrent's Minions. And it's very tongue in cheek. Every single one of my emails starts out, welcome to the Nut House. And I will email these people regularly. And again, that's part of what's included if you buy that package with the ads and stuff. And I'm not trying to host people or hard sell. I'm going to make money on books today. So we're cool, but it is valuable info. So they join Michaelbrent's Minions, and on launch day, and I have this Excel spreadsheet. I plug in my launch date, and then it plugs in dates leading up to it where I do certain things with my mailing list, with publicity, things like that. And on launch day, I go, it's live. And I have hundreds to thousands of sales on launch day. And what do you think that does to my listing on Amazon? Bumps it up. And it lets them know, here's someone we should be paying attention to because he keeps doing this. Every new book he reads, which is why my books are being picked up more and more for their Prime Reading program, which is an invitation-only thing where they ask me if I'd like to put a book on it, and it's offered free to their subscribers. And sometimes if you're on Prime Reading, they'll offer you money up front. They'll say, we'll give you a couple $1,000s or whatever. But even if not, it's amazing publicity. You're being fed to readers, and Amazon is pimping you. They're shilling your work. So you really want to have this good email list. You want to build it through Facebook ads. You want to build it organically. You want to have an ad for it at the back of every single one of your books. And I would go into, that's all in that packet I was talking about. I'd go into detail in that, but you want to have it everywhere. That's the easy answer. Every place that your book is, if you go back to my Amazon page, here it is right here. Sign up for my mailing list. It's everywhere. You want to build that so you have a measure of security. and ability to launch your books fast and hard. You also want to have it so that you can have a street team. And this is probably a good thing to talk about. I wish we could talk about it for hours, but out of this mailing list, most of the mailing list services will rate your email recipients. This will be 5 stars to 1 star. 5-star opens every single email, clicks every single link. 1-star hasn't even looked at your emails for a year. You get rid of them. You clean your email list off. It does no good to have 100,000 people on your list if none of them click. And you're just going to pay extra because you pay more as your list grows. So I spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month on my email list. But again, it's valuable. It makes the money in the end. So I get these lists and I look at my 5-star subscribers, and I'll email them periodically and say, hey, you're a minion. Would you like to be a cultist and join the Collings cult? And you get early access. You read all my books ahead of time. And in return, you're expected to spread the word. Street team is another thing you want to start building. You can start it with family and friends, but surprisingly, family and friends are the least helpful people. And it's because they're your family and friends. You're going to be with them no matter what. Your relationship isn't based in your work. So the best people are going to be your biggest fans. And I hear some authors say, so you're going to give them the books, and these are your biggest fans. So you're giving away all the books to your fan base. No. I'm giving them free samples and turning them into that person who walks around offering pens at pharmacies. Okay. And again, please hear that this is very serious. I say all that tongue in cheek. So many of my street team, and I have a street team of coming up on 200. They're so cool. And so many of them are my friends. Like, I would stay at the house of some of these people, no questions asked, or have them over to my house. They're not all that close. Some of them just want the books and they want to tell others about them. And that's awesome too. But these people are going to help you sell. So you give away 1 book to a top fan and they're going to go sell 6. That's a good return. You want to make sure that you do stuff like that. Okay, the last thing, and then we'll take any more questions. I want to talk the principles of online ads. Again, I have specific examples in that packet, but I wanted to show you they're all very simple. And there's lots of places you can go. Facebook, BookBub, Amazon, I have tons of them. Snapchat, Reddit, TikTok. I have ads on all of these. And I'm going to show you a couple things. Here's an image that goes behind one of the ads. You'll notice it's not a book cover. I mean, this is actually taken from one of my book covers, but a lot of my most successful ads are not pictures that are even related to the book. Again, they're conveying a mood. And I find that putting the book in an ad is extremely problematical because books are designed a certain way. They have space at the top for the name of the book, at the bottom for the author, vice versa. And it doesn't fit properly the dimensions of a Reddit ad. I think this is the background image for a Reddit ad. Most of them, you don't want any text, especially in Facebook. Facebook actually, if you have an ad with lots of text on the image, Facebook will not serve it as often. They want their images to be clean, clear, simple, and look like just a person posted them. One exception is BookBub. Here's a BookBub ad that I've ran that had a very good response, and the ad is actually cropped. So that's why there's a little corner missing, because their ad is a different size than the aspect ratio of the video. But it's very simple. It's very easy to read. They have very stiff requirements on the size, and this has to look great, really small. This has had a click-through rate of anywhere from 2 to 5%. And professional ad people, they want to make ads. 2% is groovy, the ads. And I design these. Again, you can do this. Here, let's watch one other thing that I designed, and then we'll move on. So I did this too. I'll be quiet for a second. And you'll notice the branding front and center again. Social proof, more branding, and then the call to action asking them to do something. So the reason I show you that is that's another kind of ad. I think that one's served on, what was it, TikTok? There's lots of them. And I made it. Okay, so there's tons of resources. That's another thing you get with the little packages, where to find stuff like that. You can do all this. I do recommend most people outsource because they don't have the time, they don't have the knowledge. When I was rebuilding my career, I locked myself in my room essentially for 6 months, really drilling down and learning this stuff. So you don't just kind of pick it up and do it, but it's doable. And I have a ton of fun making my own book trailers and commercials and things like that. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see all sorts of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Let me close with, before we go to the last couple minutes of questions, all of this is doable. None of it is doable today. You can't jump from beginning to the top. You're going to learn this as it goes. And part of the determining factor if you're successful is if you have the guts and determination to stick with it, to find out where you are terrible, because everybody is terrible at things, and fix those things. All right, Vin, hit me.
All right. So, Didgeridoof asks, does your course have a time limit once purchased, or can it be done on your own time?
Oh, good question. Okay, so that's let's see if I got my finger right. That's this one. There is a time limit to purchase it for the 90% off. It's through Sunday, but after that, you can do it as long as you want. And just to let people know, you'll see it on the page, but it's like 4 or 5 hours of lecture of me explaining story and thoughts and how to create stuff and deal with writer's block and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of exercises. So it's a really good deal for the 90% off. And I've been doing it a while, so I hopefully know what I'm talking about. But no, you can take it, and that's the nice thing about online courses. And I love about my job, I get to exercise most days because I'm taking an online course. I'm learning constantly. So I'm on the elliptical, like learning some new way to do covers or whatever.
All right, next here, A.E. Rollins asks, is there a plus or negative to Amazon versus Ingram's Park, or is it more preference by author?
So the question is plus or negative Amazon versus Ingram Spark. It's individual to each author. You have to do the analysis. I'm an Amazon guy. And part of the reason I am is because my expanded distribution it doesn't net me enough to give up the things that I get with Amazon. And by not net me enough, part of it is just that I am making a good living with Amazon stuff and with the others, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Nook. I'm mostly on Amazon. I used to be on all of them personally, but I'm mostly on Amazon. And again, that was because I could give price breaks for COVID. I could reach more people for cheaper. It wasn't about like boosting my income. It was about helping as many people as we could without not being able to pay rent. So we did that. We're mostly with Amazon. And whether you're wide, exclusive, Amazon, Ingram, Spark, these are all questions that you have to determine based on your preferred model.
All right, next, is it smart to do pre-sales for your books, or just let them know it's coming and then publish them and alert your newsletter people?
Oh, fantastic question. Do you want to do pre-sales? And that's actually part of what I have in that Excel spreadsheet. Oh, if you do purchase that package, that's part of it. You get that publication timeline. That's really cool. But the answer is it's different for each person. It's different for each platform. I'm not just going to say that. I'll give you some information. So I recommend pre-sales if you're doing Apple, Kobo, pretty much everything but Amazon. I do not recommend them for most people, especially starting out on Amazon. And here's the reason why. On all those other platforms, all the pre-sales, they count them on opening day. So January 1st, your book goes live and you've sold 50 pre-sales. They count for January 1st, which results in that boost up in the bestseller lists. And that's look, I don't want to overstate that. Like, how many of you guys have typed, I want a horror bestseller? Not tons of people, but it does help with the algorithm of that platform. They go, oh, this is a person who's selling. I've actually had Apple reach out to me and say, can we feature one of your books for a sale? And said, absolutely. And that's because they know they're good sellers. So for all those other platforms, yes, Amazon is different. Amazon rates them day by day. So if your book is out January 1st and you announce the pre-sale December 25th, and all of your newsletter buys it then because they're so excited, then that goes on December 25th. And January 1st, your actual opening day, you have no sales, or you have very few, whatever. So Amazon's a little hinky that way. When you're starting out, I definitely recommend you don't do a pre-sale on Amazon. I sometimes will. And again, though, I have a lot of people on my mailing list, so I can count for a trickle through. But even I don't, unless there's some compelling reason.
All right, and that is time. That brings us to the end of this panel. So thank you all so much for coming, and thank you, Michaelbrent, for giving us an
My
excellent
pleasure.
panel.
Thank you, guys. It's a real pleasure talking. I'm so sorry I can't see all your smiling nerd faces. Please come next year. LTUE, I tell people, is the best writing conference, bar none. So show up next year too. Have fun the rest of the day. I'll be on a bunch of panels, so hopefully I'll not see you at those panels.